And we have some breaking news for you this morning. Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan breaking his silence on Karen Reed's verdict. And opening statements is first to obtain Brennan's statement. It reads, quote, "I am disappointed in the verdict and the fact that we could not achieve justice for John O'Keefe and his family. District Attorney Michael Morrissey appointed me, giving me full discretion to independently assess the case and follow the evidence no matter where it led. After an independent and thorough review of all the evidence, I concluded that the evidence led to one person and only one person. Neither the closed federal investigation nor my independent review led me to identify any other possible suspect or person responsible for the death of John O'Keefe. The campaign of intimidation and abuse that has been waged, funded, and promoted in public and on social media is the antithesis of justice. If this type of conduct becomes commonplace, it will threaten the integrity of our judicial system, affecting both victims and criminally accused. We cannot condone witness abuse, causing participants to worry for their own safety or that of their families. It is my hope that with the verdict, the witnesses and their families will be left alone. The harassment of these innocent victims and family members is deplorable and should never happen again in a case in this Commonwealth. My heartfelt condolences to the O'Keefe family and faith that over the coming years, they will find peace and closure." Hank Brennan, what a brilliant attorney and crusader for justice. He deserves to be highly commended for his courage and the masterful job he did seeking justice for John O'Keefe. Let's bring in our power panel to get some reaction to Hank Brennan's statement. I want to welcome in John DePietro. He covered the show start to finish. He's a nationally known radio host and the creator of Road Patrol Live. Also, we've got former prosecuting attorney Tommy Pope, famously put away Susan Smith. He's in the private sector now, also a state lawmaker in South Carolina. And we have high-profile criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci with us from New York. Good morning to you all. Let's get your reactions, please, to Hank Brennan's statement. I just want to kind of go around the room here and get your thoughts on what he had to say after this verdict. John, let me begin with you, please.
You know, Julie, and obviously that's the first time I'm seeing it. Everyone else is seeing it. I'm very glad he put it out. He did as good a job as anyone could, do. I'm glad he talked about the exhaustive efforts he went to, that he felt it all led to one person. But this also comes back to, I'm glad he also touched on how these witnesses, and they're coming under fire, and anyone that's talking and speaking out is coming under fire. And I also want to caution people right now, there are people, it's very dangerous rhetoric that's out there of we have to search for the real killers. And I know we're going to talk about that juror interview that Vinny did. And I find actually a lot of things she's saying very troubling, where she keeps bringing it back to the house, and she's mentioning, Nicole Albert and Brian Albert, and we need to find out this is all dangerous rhetoric. Hank Brennan put together a solid case. He actually, to me, proved his case. You even have the juror saying, I think she touched him, which to me is the new spin of Karen saying, I didn't hit him. Now you have a juror saying, I think she may have touched him, but not hit him. That must be very difficult. Hank Brennan, it should be head held high. He knew what was on, what was at stake here. And I think people really need to just finally really understand there's a lot at stake here, the way this whole thing went down and how the other side, the Karen Reed side, is actually reacting, celebrating, and just their general demeanor right now. It's very, very damaging and to the system.
Mm-hmm. Right, John. Hank Brennan, I've said it before, I'll say it again. He's a hero. He's a hero for those victims. He fought the good fight. It's not easy to do what he did. And John, I'm glad you mentioned juror number 11 speaking with Court TV. She spoke with Vinny Politan the other night. Let's take a listen to some of what she said about the taillight evidence.
The theory I have, if she back up and maybe hit something, a curb or him, or some people in the jury raised the question, maybe he was mad and he could have thrown the glass on the taillight and break it. 34th Fairview and the police department is very close. It was time enough for someone to just show up and drop a piece of taillight at the scene.
What did you think of the...
Okay, so that just was a little bit of a clip of it. Tommy Pope, let me go to you next, please. Your reaction to Hank Brennan's statement, please.
I thought Hank was spot on. I think it was a slip of the tongue, Julie, but when you had introduced John, you said he covered the show from beginning to end, and that's what it was. And I think what concerns me, I mean, we see this in high-profile cases, but it normally takes place outside the courtroom. This somehow invaded the courtroom, and I mean, I think Hank was spot on. You've got to respect the jury and their decision-making because we're all part of the system, and if we quit respecting the jury, the system fails. So he's spot on with that, but I like what he went on to say, because I really think it's terrifying that you can orchestrate and get these crowds out front, because the fact that the jurors started with the, because they never really hit the conspiracy thing like they did the first trial, but the fact that that juror just said, well, somebody from the police station could have brought it over there, that tells me she's hearing the rhetoric that has been ginned up outside the courtroom. I'm not saying during the trial necessarily, but somehow it just surprises me you would find that independently. If that's the case, then she believes everybody in every case, they ginned up the speeding charge, they ginned up everything. And so it's this verdict, I respect it too, but it's sickening. And the little signals and the smiles and the laughs. A man is dead. And I'm pretty sure this drunk lady caused it. Whether she did it intentionally or not, she did it. But now she's going to end up being a social media star or a reality star, and a family's left to suffer. So I'm with you, Julie. God bless the family going through another trial. But, the burden's different in a civil case. And I mean, just the video we're seeing now, I mean, it's ridiculous. But they won, so they get the benefit of enjoying it.
Tommy, I love your analysis. Especially appreciate the part where you said this campaign invaded the courtroom. We talk a lot about the circus outside, the charade, how that can't affect what goes on in the jury process. And there's a big question. I'm in agreement with you, Tommy. A big question as to whether this jury was tainted, whether that pool was tainted from the outset because of what's gone on in this community. Mario Gallucci, last but certainly not least here on our Power Panel. Want to get your reaction to Hank Brennan's statement and your thoughts, please.
So I agree with everybody on the panel. This is typical gaslighting. You brought this up last week in your opening statement, and this is going on more and more in these high-profile cases. The use of social media is increased. The fact that we are now having to address social media, it's going right into what I do for jury selection now. I address social media right from the get-go, just to make sure that, this doesn't interfere in the courtroom. I've tried cases that I've won that I was like, wow, what trial was this jury watching? And I've tried cases that I've lost and said the same thing. So you got to stand by the verdict. But, more and more social media is playing a large, large role of what's going on in the courtroom.
All right, Mario, I'm sure Hank Brennan knows that he's such a seasoned trial attorney, as you all know. He's a defense attorney, a high-profile defense attorney, represented Whitey Bulger. He's had a great career. He did this willingly, doing what's right, to do what's right, to seek justice. I'm sure he knows, like you said, every trial attorney knows sometimes you lose cases you should win, and you win cases you should lose. It's just the way it goes. You gentlemen know that, and in my view, this is a case that should have been won by the Commonwealth. I believe Hank Brennan proved it, not just beyond a reasonable doubt, but beyond all doubt. I don't know where we ever have seen a homicide prosecution where it's proved down to the minute when the event happened. He proved down to the minute, 12:32 a.m. That was remarkable. So when we're hearing jurors say, oh, I thought there was reasonable doubt. Really? Was it reasonable? But, it's their verdict. They've got to live with it. It wasn't, our case. And John DePietro, I want to ask you about some of the people who have had to live with this case only because of their proximity and relationships to John O'Keefe, the Alberts, the McCabe's. They sat down with ABC News. I know you saw the interview. We have a little clip from it. Let's take a look.
You do realize for this conspiracy to be true,
it would take 30 to 50 people. You'd have to have multiple cops on 2 different police departments, multiple civilians, the medical examiner, firemen, EMTs, you name it. That's how preposterous and silly this is.
You know, I love that interview. And John, I have to tell you, and this is something you know well from covering this case, and being someone who's, you know, always been on a quest for the truth and justice and sticking to the facts and getting, you know, unwarranted attacks. You know, I've experienced it as well and tried to be silenced. It didn't work for either of us. You know, we kept speaking. But I heard Brian Albert say there was a blueprint. He said there was a blueprint that he said that Karen Reed and her team, whatever you want to call it, PR machine, advocacy team, whatever it is, the blueprint was to destroy the witnesses, destroy their credibility, ruin their lives so they wouldn't come forward. And we hear Hank Brennan saying in his statement, think about how this is the antithesis of justice. If there is campaigning done outside the courtroom to ruin people's lives and intimidate them so that justice can't happen, where will we be in America? And then same goes for members of the media who were just there to report the facts, tell the stories, and then to get attacked for doing their job. I'd love your thoughts on all of this, John.
You know, Julie, I think Nicole Albert even summed it up. Why would someone come forward to testify in a murder trial in Massachusetts? Why would people get involved? No one protects you. I think people need to understand, we're not talking about inside the courtroom where they throw out a third-party culprit. We're talking about an orchestrated campaign, leaked all their names from grand jury testimony, and then a concerted effort. This is where they live. This is where this one lives. Or you camp out. Let's show you where they all are, and let's just keep the pressure and make their life living hell. And I thought it was, you know, they have been under attack this entire time, but it's really ramped up the past couple of days since, you know, the verdict came out. But it's an element of dehumanize, go after them, convince people that these people are not worth basic respect.
Mm-hmm. You're so right, John. You know, I feel like we could all keep talking. I know we're out of time, but I sure hope that good people start standing up, protecting these innocent people. And we certainly saw that with Hank Brennan. My God, what an incredible job he did with this prosecution, and should hold his head up high. John DePietro, we have to let you go. Incredible reporting. You were one of the very courageous ones, speaking up, speaking out, always making sure that John O'Keefe was at the forefront of this story. Thank you for that.